Eric Hoover, AI Optimization and SEO Director of Search. You're a Center of Excellence. I like that.
Center
from
of
Kepler.
Excellence, yes, Kepler Group.
Run with it.
All right.
I got lucky
everyone.
there.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is the understatement of the year if you work in search. So I've worked in SEO for about 17 years. It has changed more in the last 12 months than in the 16 years before that. From the landscape to what people are finding to how results are served. It's been a constant testing playground, AKA nightmare, mostly from Google and from the LLMs themselves. And as you can see from just the sampling of headlines, there's no shortage of disruption in that landscape. And it's across the board. It's heavily impacting more than others. In the last quarter, all of these numbers have increased, let alone year on year. Specifically for today's event, the finance industry, not as heavily impacted as some of the other areas. Obviously, you see healthcare, insurance, e-commerce. Actually, I'm surprised that number is so small. But there is a definite increase overall in how AI, from AI overview to GPT, AI mode, is impacting that search landscape and impacting the search results. Originally, it was mostly organic, and as an SEO, I took that quite personally, but it is now shifting into the paid search realm as well. It is impacting all of us across the board in terms of how many users are clicking onto our sites, because people are finding those results within AI overview, AI mode, and so forth. So, we're losing clicks. We're losing, in many instances, visibility. We may still rank #1 for all of our primary keywords, our brand keywords. We may rank well in paid search for our keywords in our searches, but those results are being pushed down that page where people are less likely to find them and click. Where I work Kepler, and basically any SEO that I know and talk to nowadays figures that within the first quarter of next year, undoubtedly sometime during 2026, the face of Google will change more so to match what we see in AI mode. If anyone has played around with AI mode, we predict that is, or a form of that is what's going to be coming within Google space, how Google will look. It'll work paid ads into it as well. And that shift follows consumer usage. We see people across all different personas, age ranges are now trusting AI results more. These numbers are actually from, I think, July, so they've probably increased exponentially since then, but you have more than half of Americans getting financial advice, or at least going to financial advice and trusting it from an LLM. You have more than half of them looking for financial products and financial services starting through LLMs. And then, of course, you have a quarter of those searches, again, this number is probably much higher now, coming in or populating AI overviews, which the percentage of AI overviews showing up within SERPs is also increasing. And this is impacting not just the SERP, but like I mentioned, the site as well. There's been several studies, and this one is interesting, or this case study is interesting, but there's been several studies that show while we are losing visibility and we are losing clicks in different verticals from our traditional search results, those users that find a brand or click through from an LLM result, from a link or citation on ChatGPT, from AI overview, that they are actually upwards of 4 times more likely to convert. There was a study done by, I always forget if it was Conductor or SEMrush, these are search industry tools, that stated that 4 times more likely to convert if you're showing highly in an LLM result and when users click through. So there is a lot of value in that, but we also have to be careful because many of us who are keeping on top of this are seeing much of the LLMs are sourcing partly from Google search results, but also Wikipedia, Reddit, YouTube, and nowhere is there more honesty on the internet, at least a public-facing internet, than Reddit forums. And owning your sort of brand reputation has to include part of a Reddit strategy, or at least an awareness of what people are saying about your brand. And at Kepler, it's one of the things we do. With our organic search audit, it's not just tracking keywords, but we actually take a look at things like what's appearing obviously in AI results, but what's appearing in people also ask results. What are people talking about on Reddit? What are they saying on social about our brands? How can we understand those pain points better and bring that content back into the site and the other owned properties as well to speak to those needs as much as we can? It's definitely a challenge, but again, I've been in SEO a long time. I've seen a lot of changes, so it's also a very big opportunity for us. From a search standpoint, we are really coming around on getting all of our channels out of silos. Primarily, it's working across paid and organic together. This is something that I, both at this company and at previous companies, have really been very passionate about bringing these channels together because they work so well together, and when you're not in tune, paid, organic, and you're not together with how you're planning, how you're launching campaigns, you could really end up competing against each other. So, and this is what we'd be up against in the past. Our traditional result that is basically very quickly fading away as the months go on. We're seeing less and less of a traditional SERP. We're seeing more of that combination of AI and traditional paid and organic results. Now, this one is interesting. This, of course, AI overview, this is the most common form of a search result that we're seeing nowadays. And there have been so many different studies done in just the last few weeks. This one here from SEO Clarity says almost all of the results that they see going into AI overview comes from the first page of Google. There was a study by eMarketer done along with Ahrefs that was released yesterday that said not just AI overview, but the other channels, GPT, Gemini, Perplexity, almost none of their results pull from the first page of Google. Semrush did a study saying 25, 30%. It's all over the place. But one thing is certain is the fact that we need to be able to use our organic search, our paid search, to continue to drive efficiencies there, to own as much as that landscape, and also understand what users are doing within that, what they're seeing within that AI space, and try to populate that, or at least use that as guidance to feed back into our organic channels, our social channels, even digital PR, have that all work together to help bring as much brand visibility forward for the LLMs to take in and bring back out as part of their results. And again, this is what we're seeing very lightly. There's some testing going on with Google where they're starting to potentially include ads within AI mode, but this is where they're going towards. And again, this is the prediction for next year, which is as sort of more AI, fully focused AI SERP with organic paid and everything else, social, all mixed in to give summaries, answers, give users as much of that information within the SERP, within the search engine results, before it even heads out or heads into a website, if it does at all. The gentleman before me was talking about the GPT Walmart integration, starting to see that with a lot of brands now, the agentic shopping, where Google is keeping users within their SERP. GPT is keeping users on GPT, on ChatGPT, as much as possible, to the point where everything you do down to a conversion and revenue-driving event is all happening within that space. So it's really vital that we continue to optimize as much as we can to appear influential in those spaces. So again, the approach we take, very simple at the start. In theory, it's very simple. It's aligning all of our search and paid strategies. It's making sure that we're not competing against each other for results, and that our content, whether it is being used for landing pages, for paid campaigns, our content that might be repurposed for social, our content that's informative or that's more lower funnel conversion driven, is easily crawled, easily digestible by search engines, by AIs, and by humans alike, making sure that it is visible from both a technical and content standpoint to appear within those social channels as well. And again, supporting all that, I have had several instances where, responding to things like user-generated content, repurposing social content or website content back and forth between the channels to really help drive that cohesive story across all of the properties. And in my mind and my experience, this is something that is almost table stakes from a digital marketing perspective and has been for a few years. It's just now that we're learning all of this helps feed into the LLMs as well. So this visual is something that I've shown clients before, and I think it can be a little scary at first because you look at it and you say, wow, that's a lot of money I have to spend across all of my channels. And at the end of the day, it's not about jumping into every single one of these and spending hundreds of millions of dollars to update everything. It's about starting and testing. Again, the group before me talked a lot about testing. So taking content initiatives, using them for PR, using them for external assets. These are things that you can start to do at scale, and then start feeding into some of the other areas like repurposing something into a video, making a video library out of existing assets. All of this are things that you can do if you have these channels already working with you to help update and populate LLMs, and of course, the most important thing, which if you're up to date on anything with AI search, is answer engine optimization. So going back to what I was saying before about finding what people are asking, looking on places like Reddit, and actually discussing those pain points is vital to really owning more of that conversation and giving users the answers they want, both within those places like Reddit, forums, things like that, but also within AI themselves. And it's about intent. It's a lot about intent. Keywords are still the basis for paid search and from organic to a certain instance, but it's really about understanding what users are talking about and how to speak to that. It's more so about being intentful, being purposeful more than ever. You can have your keywords as a basis. Obviously, you need that to begin any data or research in the search world, but it's really about being as relevant as possible across your channels. And I originally used this slide to talk primarily about website content, but as I've been saying, it's really very much across the board with your channels. So there's areas at Kepler that we look at when we're thinking of a content strategy and content builds for clients. So we want to start, very upper funnel informational content. That's to grow that visibility. You're not always going to get clicks from that content, but in the age of AI, you need to grow that awareness and keep that awareness to inform the LLMs what your mission is, what your services are, what you're trying to achieve, and it helps build that authority. And a lot of times, it's not just copy, it is very visual elements. These LLMs are all multimodal, I think we all know that by now. So any way you could bring in video elements, image-based content, things like that will really help you drive that engagement across search and across LLMs. Then it's getting more engagement and conversion focus, where you get more lower funnel, where you start to talk about specific perspectives within your industry, answering those questions, and of course, down to actually speaking directly to users or responding to maybe pain points, building that out across your ecosystem to ensure that people are finding you no matter where they're searching, whether it's on-site, off-site, or finding you in LLMs. So at Kepler, we call this a search plus mentality. It's kind of our big branding name here. And with that approach, it is taking a look at all of that initial owned space, ensuring that your websites are crawlable. You've got if you are heavy in social, what does your sentiment look like? Taking a look at your paid analysis, how your paid is performing versus competitors versus organic search. And then, of course, getting an idea of what your visibility is within AI. So understanding, are you being mentioned in AI results? Are you being cited? How often are you being cited? I'll get to a little more on that in a second. And with that, it's taking that and building out that full strategy. So understanding the short-term and long-term benefits of that strategy, what you're going to do with your existing assets, what you're going to do long-term with new creative assets, new marketing, new PR, bringing that all together and setting up a testing plan, and then kind of going into the rest of the project. It is testing, iterating, understanding what's shifting in your industry and also what's shifting with your brand. Anything that could add value from a messaging standpoint, from value propositions, new products being launched, anything like that can be optimized for multiple channels and served out so that the LLMs can find that content, understand the authority, and also help users find it as well, because those are the ones that community engagement is going to be, or is vital for AI results. From a pure optimization standpoint, it's pretty table stakes, like I said, from at least my point of view. It's ensuring a website is perfectly crawlable. It's ensuring your content across the board is easily read. But the really interesting thing with AI are those KPIs. So you've got your traditional, your clicks, your impressions, all that sort of stuff with search. But from an AI standpoint, again, you need to understand exactly where you're appearing and how you're being discussed. Very similar to, if you've ever worked in social, brand sentiment, how you're being perceived within those results. So forgive the sales pitch for a second, but there's a lot of tools out there, but we have a tool at Kepler called KipAir. And the reason I like KipAir, not just because they pay my salary, there are so many tools out there that will give you brand mentions and tell you, oh, you have X% of perception visibility in ChatGPT. Like, what the hell does that mean? So what this actually does is it runs hundreds of prompts in each test, and you can assign personas to it, other factors like location, things like that. And then it'll give you mentions, it'll give you mention rate, it'll show you where within the responses for those different LLMs you actually appear. So it'll give you a ranking, it'll say you were the second cited page about this topic in ChatGPT. It will give you the context of that, and the thing that's most useful is it will give you actual recommendations based on all of that data. It will tell you at a high level what to do from an organic search standpoint. You need to have more content around this topic. It will tell you what to do or give you suggestions for social content, for paid search, for PR. And we can take that. So what I do with that on my team is kind of marry that to existing SEO data, our keyword research, competitive audits, and then bring to our clients a full approach to AI and SEO and paid search that will help build that brand visibility for our organic channel, for our paid channel, and also within LLMs. So it's a very cool tool. Again, there's a lot of tools that will do sort of the high-level version of this, but there's very few that I've seen, and I've played around with a lot of them over the last 2 years, that will actually give you more concrete recommendations and action plan on what to do going forward. That's what it looks like. That's my little sales pitch there. Sorry about that. But it is very, very interesting and easy to use and all-encompassing when it comes to recommendations. So if anyone wants to talk to me about that after, let me know. I started with headlines, but I wanted to end with one because I just saw this the other day, and I think it's probably the most important thing you need to do to win in the AI space. Authenticity, clarity, and openness. There's so many tips and tricks. I went to an SEO conference a few weeks ago where a lot of really great people were telling you basically to just spam the hell out of your websites and Reddit and all this stuff. And sometimes that works. But I think in the long run, this is what you're going to need to win. You need to be authentic to your audience, to your consumers. You need to have a clear message. You need to be authoritative in what you're speaking about. And you need to be open with everything from your achievements to your pain points. That, to me, is going to be the long-term play here in ranking well in SEO. Or in GEO, sorry. There's so many acronyms. That's it. That's me. Only a few people walked out during this, so I don't feel too hurt. Thanks.
I have a question about one of the last things you said there about the importance of being authoritative in your brand voice. Do you ever see that leading to issues where maybe you're tempted to make claims that are authoritative when maybe in reality there's a little bit more gray area or nuance to them? And how do you kind of weigh that trade-off?
Yeah, it's always, I haven't seen it personally because every brand I've ever worked on has had 1,000,001 legal teams that kind of push back against that. What I will say is, it actually goes back to, there's authority, but there's also the authenticity. So you have to be authentic to your audience, but you have to be authentic to yourself, to your brand, what you're trying to portray. So you want to be honest without being too honest, I guess. But you need to kind of stay, anyone in this room who might have worked in marketing knows about brand voice and brand guidelines, like all of that. You still need to stay within those guidelines so that you still sound like you are the brand that you have been. Working with a brand currently, it's a retail brand, not a finance brand, but very much where we're recommending SEO and GEO strategy, but we're working very closely with them to stay within that brand voice, because there's things like that, there's things like user experience as well, where I never want to cut away from that for the sake of ranking in GEO, ranking in SEO. Like, you still need to stay within those sort of guidelines as a way to continue forward cohesively. I don't know if that fully answers your question, but that's how I've been approaching it. So.
Yeah. Do you ever see brands that maybe play fast and loose a little bit with that rewarded in the short term?
Yeah, so it's funny. I rewarded in the short term, maybe short term is in like a couple of days at the most. It goes back to something I said right at the end, where I went to this conference recently, and so many great SEOs spoke, and some, all of them were people I respect, but it's funny how so many of them were just like starting with these great talks, and then at the end of it, it was basically, the takeaway was spam as much as you can, like throw as much at the wall as you can, and that does work from time to time. Because much of this is still the Wild West. The LLMs are still figuring out exactly what they're going to be, what they're trying out. I do think, as specifically for Google, when more paid media and paid search goes into those, I think that's when we're going to start to see a little more cohesiveness, a little more guardrails, when a lot more money starts being spent into it. I think that's when we might see a little more guardrails. But yeah, I have seen instances where brands are we're spamming the hell out of things and being rewarded in the short term. I don't know. I don't think it's going to work in the long term. I don't recommend it, but be careful. I'm pointing at Wayne back there. He's going to have a good talk on AI search later. Hopefully what I said doesn't go against anything he's brought up, because he's smarter than I am.
So with a recent campaign of ours, we're seeing bad players coming from paid search and syndicated search. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm sorry, bad players from paid search?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And syndicated search, and I'm not talking about robots. I'm talking about people being paid to fill out bogus information that are real people's information.
That's a tough one. Yeah, I've had that before. Conquesting digital PR campaigns, things like that, to counteract what they're saying. But outside of that,
they're not saying bad things. They're basically, these syndicated searches are paying people to fill out the form, so it's a legitimatized form, but with someone else's information.
oh, interesting. No.
And so, like, it's a known problem. And so I'm just wondering what, like, organizations like yours that, can partner with financial institutions like ours are doing to, like, negate this, like, phenomenon, because it's a problem. It's advertising dollars wasted, and then it's resources wasting inside as we're trying to follow up and qualify. And then on the back end, people are saying, that wasn't me. So then we have to deal with that.
It's interesting. I don't have an answer for that, unfortunately. Sorry. I think that's it. Anyone else? Yeah, another one?
Thank you. You spoke a little bit kind of at the end of your answer to my first question about Google starting to plan for more paid integration coming into like their AI overviews and things like that. I'm just curious to hear a little bit more about that, how exactly you see that playing out. I think in your presentation, I think you said like that it'll somehow be leveraging kind of the intent of the search. I'm just curious to hear more about that.
Yeah, so what they've been testing is it pulls in not just your keyword targeting and things like that, but it actually wants to understand the intent of the queries, of the targeting of the pages that it's running, that it's linking to. It's trying to get a more personalized result is basically what it's trying to do. And that's what we think is coming, is that even more personalized result, both from a paid and organic standpoint, where it is going to be not indecipherable, like paid versus organic, even though they're also shifting that way on Google as well. But it is more about just becoming more authentic. It goes back to that authenticity piece. That seems to be what Google is aiming for. They've, like I said, they've done some light testing with AI mode, but the assumption / what they've sort of told us is it'll be coming out more heavier next year. So. Cool. Great. Well, if anyone has any other questions, I'll be here for a little bit. Thank you.